The maternity ward at St. Mary's Hospital in Dallas, Texas, was supposed to be filled with joy that day. Nurses bustled through the halls, adjusting IVs, checking monitors, and preparing delivery rooms. In room 312, a 19-year-old mother named Tiara Mitchell gripped the side rails of her hospital bed, her face drenched in sweat, her voice rising in screams as another contraction ripped through her body. She'd done this before, twice in fact. At just 19, Tiara was already the mother of 2 small children. But this time was different. This time, she was delivering twins. Her young husband, Devon Mitchell, waited just outside the delivery room. He paced the hallway, glancing at the closed double doors every few seconds. The hospital staff hadn't allowed him in due to minor complications. Devon said nothing, but his jaw tightened each time a nurse walked past without stopping. Inside, Dr. Elena Reyes calmly coached Tiara through the delivery. "Push, Tiara. One more," she said, voice steady. Moments later, a cry filled the room. The first baby, a girl. Then, just a minute later, another cry followed, a boy. Tears ran down Tiara's cheeks as the nurse laid both babies on her chest. She whispered, "They're beautiful," her voice weak but filled with wonder. Despite the exhaustion, the pain, the pressure of being a young mother of 4, this moment right here was pure. She had made it. 2 new lives. A complete family. But life can be cruel in ways that defy reason. As Tiara drifted into a peaceful haze, nurses took the twins to be cleaned and examined. The room quieted. The door remained closed. Outside, Devon pulled out his phone and sent a quick message. He didn't smile. He didn't even speak. He just stared at the screen, fists clenched. Minutes later, someone walked into room 312. Tiara opened her eyes, expecting to see a nurse, or maybe Devon. But the figure at the door was different. Dressed in black from head to toe, face covered by a ski mask. No words, no hesitation. 2 loud pops echoed down the sterile hallway. A nurse from the next room screamed. Footsteps pounded down the corridor. By the time help arrived, Tiara Mitchell was already gone, her heart and skull pierced by bullets fired at point-blank range. She had been a mother for less than 20 minutes. Sirens screamed down the streets of South Dallas, painting the hospital walls red and blue with their flashing lights. Within minutes, the maternity ward at St. Mary's was no longer a place of life. It was a crime scene. The body of Tiara Mitchell lay motionless on the bed, a white sheet now stained red beneath her. The overhead lights cast a cold, sterile glow on her face, her eyes still open, as if caught between life and death. Down the hall, her husband Devon sat slumped against the wall, holding his head in his hands. Nurses whispered. Officers spoke in low tones. The entire hospital held its breath. To the outside world, Devon and Tiara Mitchell were just 2 young parents trying to make things work. They lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the east side. Devon worked as a mechanic at a local auto body shop. Tiara stayed home with the kids. They weren't rich. They weren't perfect, but they were surviving. Tiara had grown up fast. She was raised by her grandmother after her mother fell into drugs and her father disappeared when she was a baby. At 15, she met Devon. He was a quiet boy with tired eyes and oil-stained fingers. He didn't have much, but he listened. And for a girl like Tiara, that was everything. By 16, she was pregnant with their first child. They dropped out of school, moved in together. A year later, baby number 2 arrived. Life wasn't easy, but Tiara never complained. She baked cookies for the church potluck. She walked her kids to the bus stop every morning. She kept a home that smelled like cinnamon and baby powder. When she found out she was pregnant again, this time with twins, she was overwhelmed but not afraid. God gave me this life for a reason, she told her neighbor. I just have to be strong enough to live it. But strength didn't stop the bullet. Detectives Carla Monroe and Jamal Brooks arrived at the hospital 35 minutes after the shooting. Carla, 40, had worked homicide for over a decade. She'd seen her share of murders, but something about this one stuck. A young woman, freshly postpartum, murdered in a hospital room meant to bring life into the world. That wasn't just cruel. It was evil. Inside room 312, crime scene investigators worked quickly, photographing, collecting, marking evidence with yellow tags. 2 bullets, 1 heart, 1 head, no signs of struggle. The shooter had come with purpose. Carla scanned the room. Where's the husband? In the waiting area. He was outside when it happened. We have multiple staff who saw him in the hallway during the time of the shooting, a uniformed officer replied. Jamal raised an eyebrow. Let's go talk to him. They found Devon sitting alone, shoulders slumped, his hoodie stained with tears. When Carla introduced herself, he looked up slowly, eyes red and puffy. I don't understand, he mumbled. Who would do this? She just gave birth. Our babies. Jamal sat across from him. That's what we're trying to find out. Did Tiara have any enemies? Anyone who might want to hurt her? Devon shook his head. No, never. She stayed home. Took care of the kids. Didn't go out. How about you? Carla asked, watching his reaction carefully. Any problems at work? Trouble with anyone? I just fix cars, he said softly. Go to work. Come home. That's it. He looked away, then added, this pregnancy wasn't planned, but we were trying. We were doing okay. Carla exchanged a quick glance with Jamal. We're going to need to take a look at your phone, she said gently. Just protocol. Devon hesitated. His body stiffened, but then he nodded and handed over the phone without a word. Where are the other kids now? Jamal asked. Tiara's mom has them. She came when labor started. Carla jotted it down in her notebook. Mr. Mitchell, we'll do everything in our power to find out who did this. But if there's anything you're not telling us, now is the time. Devon didn't answer, just looked at the floor. Back in room 312, the air still smelled of antiseptic and blood. The forensics team had already marked the shell casings. The crime scene photographer zoomed in on the jagged entry wounds, the blood-splattered wall, and the chaos left behind. But it was the silence, the unnatural stillness in that room meant for new life, that haunted Detective Carla Monroe the most. This wasn't random, she said quietly to Jamal, who stood at the doorway with crossed arms. No, he agreed. This was personal, fast, clean. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Minutes later, the hospital's head of security escorted the detectives into the control room. A dozen monitors flickered with grainy footage from every corner of the building. A tech rewound the tape from the maternity wing hallway. There, the head of security said, pointing to the timestamp. For 25 p.m., a figure appeared on screen, small to medium build, wearing black from head to toe, moving briskly but without panic. The ski masked the face. The person turned a corner, entered room 312, and exited 20 seconds later, vanishing down the stairwell. No hesitation, no wasted movement. Any footage from the stairwell exit? Carla asked. Unfortunately, that camera was under maintenance. Parking lot cams in that wing were down too. Convenient. Or planned. Jamal leaned forward. Can we tell if it's a man or woman? The head of security shook his head. Hard to say. Could be a small man or a woman with a strong stride. Carla's eyes didn't leave the screen. Rewind it. Let's see who came into the hospital an hour before. The tech did as instructed, and 30 seconds later, a new figure appeared. Same height, similar build, wearing jeans and a hoodie, the hood pulled low. The person moved carefully, avoiding eye contact with cameras. Jamal frowned. Looks like our suspect came in disguised and changed inside. Where could they change clothes? Carla asked. Restrooms, utility closets, storage rooms, anywhere with privacy. Send a team to sweep all of them, Carla said firmly. Look for discarded clothes, gloves, masks, anything. Back at the crime scene, evidence was stacking up, but no names yet. That's when the digital forensic team called from a station. We pulled data from Devon Mitchell's phone, the tech reported. Found something strange. Carla and Jamal returned to the precinct and were handed a printed string of text messages. The contact name, K. The messages started out innocent enough. Flirty. Secretive. K. Miss you. Devon. Can't tonight. Tiara's sick. K. She's always sick. I'm tired of hiding. Devon. Just wait a little longer. K. You said you were going to leave her. Devon. I will. I swear. Then came the kicker. K. She's pregnant again? Are you kidding me? Devon. It wasn't planned. K. You promised me a life. Now there's more kids. Devon, it'll be over soon. I promise. Carla's expression hardened. Sounds like someone wasn't ready to share. Jamal nodded grimly, especially not after two more babies entered the picture. The last message, timestamped 4:10 p.m., chilled them. "K, let me know when it's done. Devon, twins. A boy and a girl. K, congratulations." Exactly 15 minutes later, Tiara was dead. "This K, who is she?" Carla asked. The tech already had the answer. "We traced the number. Registered to Akisha Vaughn, 22 years old. Lives in South Oak Cliff. Works as a front desk receptionist at the Blue Lagoon Motel." Carla stared at the address. She's not just a mistress. She's the jealous mistress. Jamal exhaled slowly. Motive, opportunity, and now digital footprints. "We need eyes on her now," Carla said. "Surveillance, no contact yet. If she's our shooter, she'll slip. And I want to see what Devon does next." Because one thing was certain, Kesha Vaughn didn't act out of nowhere. The Blue Lagoon Motel sat on the edge of a tired strip of South Oak Cliff, where neon signs flickered and the paint peeled from old stucco walls. The kind of place where people checked in under fake names and checked out before sunrise. Detectives Carla Monroe and Jamal Brooks pulled up across the street in an unmarked Ford Taurus. They killed the engine and watched. Behind the dusty front office glass, Kesha Vaughn sat at the front desk, absent-mindedly scrolling through her phone. She was exactly as the records described. 22 years old, slender, dark-skinned, hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her face looked tired. Not grief-tired, but stress-tired. Jamal lifted a pair of binoculars. "She keeps checking her phone every 2 minutes." Carla frowned. Waiting for a message? Or watching to see if the cops come knocking? At that moment, a black SUV turned into the motel lot. The detectives sat up straighter. The driver door opened, and out stepped Devon Mitchell. "What the hell is he doing here?" Jamal muttered. Carla didn't answer. She was already lifting her phone to start recording. Devon walked quickly toward the motel office, his head low, hood up. The moment Kesha saw him, she stood up, startled. Within seconds, they were face-to-face inside the glass room. Through the window, Carla and Jamal watched the scene unfold like a silent film. Kesha raised her voice, waving her arms. Devon gestured defensively, then ran a hand over his head in frustration. She pointed at him, yelled something, and then, suddenly, collapsed into his arms, sobbing. Devon wrapped his arms around her, held her head against his chest. For a moment, the tension between them melted. Jamal stared through the binoculars. "That doesn't look like a killer and her accomplice." Carla narrowed her eyes. "No, it looks like a woman who lost control and a man who promised her something he never meant to give. Or one hell of a performance." Carla snapped a few photos with her phone. "Let's get eyes on her place next." 15 minutes later, Devon walked out alone. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between guilt and grief. He got into his SUV and drove away. Inside, Kesha wiped her eyes, sat down, and stared at the floor. "Now it's my turn," Carla said, getting out of the car. She crossed the road, stepped into the motel, and approached the counter. Kesha looked up, startled but composed. "Hi, can I help you?" Carla smiled warmly. "Looking for a quiet room for the night." "Just me." "Sure," Kesha said, grabbing a key from the board. "You like room 8? It's upstairs." Carla handed her a credit card with a fake name and leaned in a little. "Rough day." Kesha hesitated, eyes blinking rapidly. "Yep, personal stuff." "Men?" Carla asked with a knowing smirk. Kesha smiled weakly. "Aren't they always the problem?" Carla tilted her head. "He married—" Silence. Then Kesha nodded. "His wife died yesterday." Carla's smile faded into a rehearsed sympathy. "Oh, that's awful." Kesha quickly changed the subject. "Your room's ready." As Carla took the key, she said, "If you ever need to talk, I'm a counselor." "I get it. I'm fine," Kesha said too quickly. "Really?" Back in the surveillance car, Carla briefed Jamal. "She's shaken, but I don't think she's scared of getting caught. She's scared of losing him." Jamal nodded slowly. "You think she pulled the trigger on her own?" "Either that, or Devon is playing a very, very long game." They ran Kesha's background again that night. No criminal history, but a concealed carry license. The registered weapon? Glock 19, same caliber as the murder weapon. And then came the social media clue. Jamal called Carla over. You need to see this. He held up his phone. On the screen was Kesha at a shooting range, smiling behind a black pistol. Caption: learning to shoot. Soon to be an expert. Date: 2 months ago. Carla stared at the image. She was preparing, she said. Jamal nodded. This wasn't a crime of passion. No, Carla whispered. This was a plan. They looked out the window. Across the street, behind a glass wall, Kesha Vaughn sat alone. Obsessed. Rejected. Impossibly deadly. The next morning, the sun hadn't even cleared the Dallas skyline when Carla Monroe stood before the judge, filing for a search and arrest warrant. She laid out the evidence piece by piece. Threatening messages. A registered firearm matching the murder weapon's caliber. Surveillance footage of a figure matching Kesha's build. The affair. The motive. The timing. The judge didn't hesitate. By noon, Carla and Jamal were back in South Oak Cliff, outside a faded brick apartment complex where Kesha Vaughn lived on the second floor, apartment 23. Officers took positions at every exit. Carla stood at the door with a warrant in one hand, her other hand resting on her service weapon. She knocked. Hard. Kesha Vaughn, Dallas Police. We have a warrant. Open the door. Silence. Then, a rustle behind the door. Carla looked at Jamal and nodded. The battering ram hit once, twice, bang. The door flew open, slamming against the wall. Police! Carla shouted. Hands where I can see them. Kesha came charging out of the bedroom, screaming and swinging a baseball bat. Jamal ducked just in time. Drop it, Kesha. Carla raised her weapon. Don't make this worse. Kesha froze, eyes wild, chest heaving. This is all because of him, she screamed. He said he'd leave her. He lied. Carla stepped forward, swift and calm. In one motion, she knocked the bat away and pinned Kesha's arm behind her back. Kesha Vaughn, you're under arrest for the murder of Tiara Mitchell. As the cuffs clicked shut, Kesha collapsed, sobbing. I didn't mean to. I didn't. They read her rights, led her outside, and placed her in the back of a squad car. Then came the search. Inside her bedroom, beneath the mattress, they found a Glock 19 wrapped in a towel. In the closet, a black gym bag with a ski mask, black hoodie and pants, and $3,000 in cash. But it was the day planner that sealed it, tucked between linens in her dresser drawer, filled with obsessively scrawled journal entries, some loving, some dark. Jude promised he'd leave her by Christmas. She's pregnant again. I hate her. He keeps choosing them over me. I'll solve it myself. I know what hospital she's delivering at. Soon, we'll finally be together. Carla closed the journal, her stomach turning. This wasn't just jealousy. It was delusion. That evening, under the dull, fluorescent lights of Interrogation Room 3, Kesha sat hunched in her chair, eyes swollen, hair frizzed, hands cuffed. Carla and Jamal sat across from her, calm, patient. Carla laid the journal on the table, then a photo of the Glock, then the ski mask, then the screenshot of the messages. We have the weapon, the clothing, your writing, and the confession you were about to blurt out during arrest, Carla said gently. This is your chance to tell the truth. Kesha stared at the table. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You read the planner? Yes. I didn't mean to do it, she said. I loved him. Tell us what happened, Jamal said. From the beginning. She took a shaky breath. I waited in the hospital cafeteria. I had the bag with me. When Devon texted that the babies were born, I knew it was now or never. I went to a restroom, changed clothes, put on the ski mask, hid my things in a supply closet. Then, I walked to her room. She started to cry. I didn't think I'd do it. I just wanted to scare her, make her understand that she was ruining our lives. But when I saw her lying there, peaceful, holding his kids, it was like something snapped. Carla leaned in, and then I pulled the gun out. I didn't think. I didn't even feel. Just heard the sound. Twice. Then I ran. I changed back. Threw the clothes in a dumpster on the 3rd floor. And I left. That's it. Carla's voice softened. Did Devon know? Kesha shook her head slowly. No. I lied to him. I told him I wasn't even at the hospital. He believed me. Or he wanted to. Jamal folded his arms. Why now? Why not just walk away? She looked up at him, eyes filled with something broken. Because I waited years for him. I believed every word. That we'd have a life. But he kept giving her more babies, more reasons to stay. She sniffled. I thought if she was gone, I'd finally be enough. Carla exchanged a look with Jamal. You realize you lost him forever. Kesha closed her eyes. Yeah, I know. As they escorted her back to holding, Carla whispered to Jamal, That's not remorse. No, he replied. That's regret. Not for what she did, but for not getting what she wanted. The next morning, as the city of Dallas stirred awake, Devon Mitchell sat in a cold interrogation room at the precinct. His hoodie was wrinkled, his eyes hollow. He hadn't shaved. He hadn't slept. Detective Carla Monroe entered and sat across from him, placing a thick case file between them. We arrested Kesha Vaughn last night, she said evenly. She confessed. Devon didn't speak, just stared at the table, jaw tight. She admitted to being at the hospital. She described everything in detail. Carla continued. We found a gun, the ski mask, the clothes, and a journal. A day planner filled with your name, your promises, your text messages, your lies. Devon finally looked up. She did it. Carla nodded. She said he didn't know. Said she acted alone. He blinked slowly. She told me she wasn't even there. Do you believe her? Silence. Then I don't know. Carla leaned in. We're not charging you. Not yet. But you need to understand, this didn't come out of nowhere. You fed her hopes. You made her believe. Devon's voice cracked. I didn't tell her to kill Tiara. No, Carla said. But you led her right to that hospital with your silence. He buried his face in his hands. I didn't mean for this to happen. I love Tiara. I love my kids. Carla's expression didn't change. Did you? Or did you love being needed? Devon didn't answer. We have 4 children without a mother now, she said softly. 2 of them never even got to see her face. That one hit him. His shoulders sank, and for the first time since the shooting, Devon cried. Not the quick tears of guilt, but the kind of sobs that come when it's far too late to change anything. That afternoon, Kesha Vaughn was formally charged with first-degree murder in the death of Tiara Mitchell. The district attorney's office reviewed the evidence, the weapon, the confession, the obsessive journal, and surveillance footage. They agreed to seek life without parole. There would be no plea bargain, no mercy. The trial would come, but the facts were already written in blood. As for Devon Mitchell, he walked free, but not without consequences. Weeks later, Carla stopped by St. Mary's Hospital to check on the twins. The NICU nurse smiled warmly. They're healthy, she said, ready to go home soon. Carla asked, Has their father been coming? Every day, the nurse replied. He holds them, talks to them. He cries a lot, but he shows up. Carla stood by the nursery window, watching Devon cradling one of the babies. His eyes were still tired. His hands still trembled. But for the first time, he looked like a man who understood the weight of fatherhood. Good, Carla murmured. They're going to need that. In South Oak Cliff, Kesha Vaughn sat alone in a county jail cell, staring at the gray wall in front of her. There were no more messages from Devon. No more whispered promises. No more hope. The man she thought she could steal was never hers to begin with. And now, all she had left was silence. At the Mitchell family apartment, Tiara's mother helped with the children. The funeral had been small, quiet, no TV crews, no headlines beyond the city limits. But the story didn't need cameras to feel heavy. Every photo of Tiara still hung on the walls. Her shoes were still in the corner by the door. Her scent still lingered in the baby blankets. The twins, Layla and Jalen, slept side by side in the crib. Their mother's memory wasn't something they could understand yet. But one day they would ask, and when they did, someone would have to tell them the truth. That their mother was taken not by a stranger, not by some faceless evil, but by jealousy, deception, and the kind of broken promises that destroy lives. Detective Carla Monroe returned to her desk later that evening, filing the last report on the case. As she closed the folder, she paused. Obsession, she wrote in the margin, isn't always about possession. Sometimes it's about control. And when people lose control, they kill. Jamal leaned in from his desk. You good? Carla nodded. Yeah, case is closed. He raised an eyebrow. You believe Devon? She hesitated. I believe he didn't pull the trigger, she said. but I also believe he loaded the gun. Jamal leaned back. Fair enough. They turned off their desk lamps. Outside, the city lights of Dallas flickered on. Somewhere in that city, a young father held 4 kids in his arms. And somewhere else, behind concrete and steel, a young woman whispered the name of a man who would never come back. 3 months had passed. The headlines were gone. The trial was waiting. But for the Mitchell family, time hadn't moved at all. Inside the small apartment in South Dallas, everything reminded them of Tiara. Her shoes were still by the door, exactly where she left them the night before going into labor. Her robe still hung behind the bedroom door. In the kitchen, a sticky note in her handwriting still clung to the refrigerator. Devon, pick up more diapers. Love, T. The sound of children's cartoons played in the background, but the silence behind it was deafening. Devon stood in the nursery, rocking Layla, while Jalen slept in his crib. The twins were healthy, growing fast, but they cried more at night than the other kids ever had. Maybe it was just being newborns. Maybe it was something deeper. Every day, Devon tried. He fed the kids. He changed diapers. He showed up to court hearings. He spoke to social workers. He told people he was okay. But the truth? Devon was drowning in a guilt he couldn't name. He hadn't killed Tiara, but he hadn't protected her either. He had spent months telling another woman what she wanted to hear. Told her he was leaving. Told her he loved her. Told her just enough to believe. And then he let her linger. Now his wife was dead, and every time his daughter reached for a mother who wasn't there, he was reminded of it. Detective Carla Monroe checked in quietly, without fanfare. She didn't wear a badge. She didn't carry a notebook. She just showed up one afternoon with a small box in hand. Devon answered the door, surprised. "Detective, call me Carla today," she said softly. She stepped inside. The kids were playing in the living room. The oldest girl, Maya, now 5, was coloring on the floor. She glanced up, curious, but went back to her drawing. "I brought this," Carla said, placing the box on the coffee table. Inside was a framed print of Tiara's hospital photo, the one taken just minutes after the twins were born. Her smile was exhausted, radiant, and real. In her arms, 2 tiny lives swaddled in white. "I thought the twins might want to know what she looked like that day," Carla said. Devon's hands trembled as he held the frame. "Thank you." Carla nodded. "You don't have to talk. I just wanted to drop it off." She turned to leave, but Devon spoke. "I let her believe things that weren't true," he said. "I kept saying I'd leave, but I never meant to." "Not really." Carla looked back at him. "Sometimes the lie we tell to buy time becomes the match that lights the fire." He looked down at the frame. "I just wanted peace, and I made a storm." Elsewhere, in a women's holding facility in West Texas, Kesha Vaughn sat alone in a gray-walled room with no clock, no mirror, and no freedom. She had pled not guilty, but her trial was looming. Her lawyer wanted her to take a plea. She refused. "I did it for love," she kept saying. No one understands that. But no one came to visit. Not Devon. Not her family. Not anyone. She spent her days staring at the wall and her nights hearing the sounds of her own guilt echo off the concrete. Love, she had thought, would save her, but it had destroyed them all. On the 1-year anniversary of Tiara's death, the Mitchell family held a small memorial in the park down the street. There was no press, no cameras, just family, friends, and neighbors. Devon stood with all 4 children, holding Jalen in his arms. Maya held a single white balloon. When it was time, she let it go. As it floated into the sky, she whispered, "That's for Mommy." Devon didn't cry, not because he wasn't broken, but because he had learned sometimes you cry so much, you just run dry. And all that's left is the promise to never let her be forgotten. 9 months after the murder of Tiara Mitchell, the city of Dallas turned its eyes to the courthouse on Commerce Street. Reporters gathered outside. The local news ran evening segments previewing the case. Social media buzzed with hashtags. Inside, State of Texas versus Kesha Vaughn was underway. In the courtroom, Kesha sat quietly at the defense table, wearing a plain beige prison jumpsuit. Her once-styled hair was flat, pulled back in a bun. Her eyes were distant, but her jaw remained clenched, like someone still clinging to the version of the story where she was the victim. Across the aisle, Devon Mitchell sat with Tiara's mother and extended family. He held his youngest daughter in his lap. The twins, now nearly walking, had never known their mother's voice, but they were here to hear justice speak for her. The prosecution didn't waste time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the DA began. This is a story about obsession disguised as love, about a woman who couldn't have what she wanted, so she destroyed what someone else had. They laid out the evidence piece by piece. The Glock 19 found under her mattress, the black clothing and ski mask in her gym bag, the day planner filled with disturbing entries, her text messages with Devon, her own confession recorded on tape. The defense tried to shift the narrative. Her attorney described Kesha as a young woman emotionally manipulated by a man who used her for comfort but abandoned her when things got real. They didn't deny she was at the hospital, but they claimed it wasn't premeditated murder. It was a mental breakdown, her attorney argued. An impulsive, irrational act born out of heartbreak, not hatred. Detectives Carla Monroe and Jamal Brooks took the stand. Calm, professional, precise. They walked the jury through the timeline, the investigation, the digital trail that led them to Kesha Vaughn. The jury saw screenshots of texts, heard audio from the interrogation room, read excerpts from her journal. I hate her. I hate her belly with his kids. If he can't fix this, I will. Soon, we'll finally be together. Even Kesha's own words in court couldn't undo that paper trail. When Devon Mitchell took the stand, the room held its breath. He looked older, thinner, worn. He admitted to the affair, admitted to lying to both women. But he denied knowing Kesha was planning anything violent. I said things I shouldn't have, he told the jury. But I never told her to hurt Tiara. Never. The prosecutor asked, do you feel responsible? Devon nodded. Every day. His voice broke. My kids will never know their mom. That's my fault. After 4 days of testimony and 5 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The courtroom stood still. The judge asked the foreperson, have you reached a verdict? Yes, Your Honor. We find the defendant, Kesha Vaughn, guilty of murder in the first degree. No one cheered. No one gasped. Just the collective exhale of truth finally landing. Kesha didn't flinch. She stared straight ahead. 2 weeks later, sentencing was held. Before the judge delivered the sentence, Kesha was given a chance to speak. She stood slowly, gripping the sides of the podium. I loved him, she said. I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I thought if I made space for us, he would choose me. I was wrong. She looked back at Devon briefly. I thought killing her would make him mine, but it just made me empty. Then, in a rare moment of clarity, she added, I don't deserve forgiveness. I just hope one day those kids will find peace. The judge looked at her long and hard. Ms. Vaughn, you didn't just take a life. You took a mother. You shattered a family. And you did it with intent. He paused. I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As Kesha was led out of the courtroom in shackles, Devon held Tiara's oldest daughter close. She asked, is the bad lady going away? He nodded. Yes, baby. She is. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. But Devon didn't speak to the cameras. He just walked down the courthouse steps, one baby in each arm, with the shadow of his mistakes following quietly behind. In the end, Kesha Vaughn lost the man she loved, her freedom, and her future. Tiara Mitchell lost her life, and 4 innocent children lost the only person who ever truly protected them. Life didn't magically go back to normal after the trial. There were no silver linings, no dramatic music swells, no hand of God parting the clouds. There was just Tuesday morning, and a bottle that needed warming. Devon Mitchell now woke up each day before the sun, sometimes to crying, sometimes to silence. He didn't set alarms anymore. His body just knew. The twins, Layla and Jalen, were almost one. They were walking, babbling, beginning to recognize faces and fear strangers. But the word mama had no place to land. Maya, the oldest, had started having nightmares. She would wake up crying, clinging to Devon's shirt, asking if the bad lady was coming back. Each time, he held her tighter and whispered, she can't hurt anyone anymore. But deep down, Devon knew that wasn't entirely true. Kesha Vaughn may have been behind bars, but the scars she left weren't just physical. They were emotional, generational, invisible, yet everywhere. Every Saturday, Devon took the kids to the park Tiara used to love. It was small, just a few benches and an aging swing set, but it was where she brought the older kids every afternoon when he worked late. Sometimes, neighbors would recognize him and nod politely. Other times, they'd just stare. They remembered the headlines. They remembered the girl who was murdered in her hospital bed after giving birth. And they remembered the man who cheated, who lied, who said he never knew. Some believed him. Some never would. But Devon didn't show up for them. He showed up for the kids. He started writing letters to Tiara. Long ones. Pages and pages. He never mailed them, of course. He kept them in a shoebox under the bed. In one letter, he wrote, "You were the strongest person I've ever known, and I was the weakest. You deserve more. I didn't protect you, but I promise I'll protect them." Every single day. He didn't believe it made things right, but it was a way to keep from going numb. The city offered no financial support, and there were no viral GoFundMe campaigns. Devon worked extra hours at the shop and took side jobs fixing engines in driveways after the kids were asleep. He bought secondhand clothes, clipped coupons, learned how to braid hair, and how to heat formula with one hand while holding a toddler in the other. Some days he was exhausted, some days angry, and some days he would look at his kids, all four of them asleep in one room, and feel something he couldn't name. It wasn't redemption, but it might have been purpose. One Sunday, Detective Carla Monroe came by unannounced. She brought a book from Maya, "I Miss My Mommy," a children's grief storybook. Devon opened the door and offered a tired smile. "You don't have to check in anymore," he said. "I'm not here as a detective," Carla replied. "Just as someone who remembers." They sat on the porch for a while. "You're doing a good job," she finally said. Devon shook his head. "Too late for that." "No," she said. "Not for them." There was a pause. "Did she say anything at sentencing?" he asked. Carla nodded. "She said she hoped the kids would find peace someday." He looked away. "They deserve it." "She meant it for herself," Carla added. "Not them."